Hey guys, it's Hannah, aka the Black Hannah, and today we're going to talk about some things you need to consider if you're thinking about cutting your locks. And while we do this, we're going to just get unready, pour me a little wine, and do my face mask, stuff like that. I can understand the stress. I know when you're actually on your lock journey, it can be a lot of things that happen. So we're going to talk about those things to consider and really think about before you make the decision to cut or comb your locks out. So yes, let's get into it. Let me get my little headbands. Let's talk about it. If you're thinking about cutting or combing out your locks, do you want to possibly have locks again? The reason I ask that is because that'll make the difference if you're really getting to a point, because I know some people, like, I've heard, I don't have any kids, but I heard when you get pregnant, your hair thins out. Some people talked about locks thinning, or like they just go through a phase where it's like, oh, I feel so stressed, I don't know what to do with my locks. I get it. Like, been there outside the pregnancy one, been there, okay? You need to ask yourself, do I not want locks ever again? Or is this something I just want to break from? And the reason I say that is because if it's something that you just want to break from, but you know you want them gone from your head at the moment, because if you're like me, I'm impulsive, but not with my locks. I would say ask yourself that question, because that would make the difference between do you cut your locks or do you comb them out. And that's because, you know, if you cut them, you can reattach them. People reattach their locks all the time. My sister has locked 3 times. Y'all count them 3 times. I want to say, I hope I'm getting that number right. But yeah, I think she's locked and relocked like 3 times. And I know she started them fresh twice. But one time I remember very clearly where she reattached them. So when she decided to reattach them, she could. And I feel like you need to ask yourself that, because if you comb them out and then immediately miss your locks, you'll be like, dang, oh my God, now I have to go through this full locking process again. As opposed to if you attach them, you're not gonna have to go through the full locking process from the start like you did the first time. You know what I mean? So you definitely wanna ask yourself, is this something I'm really done with or something I just need a break from? If you just need a break, I would cut them versus combing them, because I would want to come back to my locks if I feel like, man, you know what, I miss the lock life. You know what I mean? The second thing you want to ask yourself is it because it's difficult, or is there something I'm struggling with? And the reason I ask that is because if it's something you're struggling with your hair, go to a loctician. They are the ones who are made and built and built for it, but like they are built for it. You know what I mean? They're the ones who went to school and did some sort of training. There's a lot, even though I don't go to a loctician regularly, there are things I learned from locticians that helped me take care of my hair, made it so much easier for me taking care of my hair at home. And dryness was one of those things I messed up and had issues with, even my retwist at one point. But because I saw a loctician and was able to, you know, talk to them while they were doing my hair, I was able to learn valuable information that helped me care for my locks and made them feel a lot easier to deal with. The next thing I think you should definitely ask yourself are my reasons for wanting to not have locks internal or external. And the reason I say this, I'm always saying that, but the reason I really ask this is because people don't talk about locking. Yes, it's more popular now, but the response to it is still sometimes shocking, especially because we're still the minorities if you're Black, let's be real, right? So not everyone reacts to it well. I had issues in one of my workplaces as an attorney with locks. So ask yourself, is this because I genuinely don't like it, or is it because something said? Is someone projecting how they feel on me? Because unfortunately, family members will project and say they don't like your hair, which sucks if you have to experience that. Or friends will say, oh, you look better with a wig or stuff like that. And if you experience that, I am so sorry, because let me tell you something, your hair does not define you. And that's why I have locks, because me going through my locking process really increased. I always felt like I'm a pretty confident person. My parents really just instilled and cultivated us well, but also the locking process and having to stand beside it when I had little bitties to long, you know, beautiful locks now, and they were beautiful then too, but I had to learn that to kind of close out the noise. And I remember other people who had longer locks, like long locks, they were like, Hannah, don't even let it bother you, just wait. When they start to flourish, everybody's gonna say, oh, how you should I lock, help me with my locks, help me with my locks. And that's exactly what happened, but you gotta stick it out. So if you feel like the reason you're struggling with your locks is because of things that are external, learn to shut it out, or straight up tell them, I hate to say it, but you have to put some backbone on it and be like, look, this is my decision. And if you continue with this rhetoric, I will not be speaking with you. And if you continue with this rhetoric when I don't respond, you will be blocked. And I am a serial blocker, so maybe to me, that's why I'm like, oh, that's the perfect thing. But I protect my peace around here. And if this is the decision I make and I love it, I'm not listening to anything negative. But you need to ask yourself, all this drives, you need to be asking yourself what that reasoning is and why you feel uncomfortable or why you feel like, you know, locking just isn't for you. Third, you need to ask yourself, am I uncomfortable right now? And this especially for the girlies who are new lock babies. And your hair, oh, I get to make my little special mix. If you haven't seen the mix, go watch the last video because my thing is empty. You need to ask yourself, am I just uncomfortable right now in this season? Because locking, I mean, I feel like up until until a year and a half, it really is a process. And I mean, it's a process the entire time regardless. But I feel like people don't talk about your hair is going through so many different phases at once. It's like, what is going on? And I feel like sometimes it's harder to feel comfortable with your hair in that process because, you know, in the first year and a half, it can be really hard to deal with your locks because they're changing so rapidly to where it's like, man, the second I figure it out, my texture is changing and now it's matting and it's finally locking. Well, some parts of it are locking or some parts of it aren't locking, aka the edges, I don't care what nobody says, hardest part to lock. If you're someone who's just uncomfortable or dealing with discomfort right now, you have to remind yourself that this is just part of the process. Once you're through it and your hair is locked, you're gonna be fine. Even after that, like my edges grew, right? When my edges grew, I had to relock some of the pieces. Like this tiny one took forever, but locking is genuinely a process. If you're not up for the process, that's okay. Like it's not, nothing's wrong with you. Like hair is hair, that's all right. Like I promise you it is fine and dandy if you realize locking is not for you. But if it's just because you're not a part of the process that's uncomfortable, just stick it out and do things that maybe make it easier for you or embrace it. Like genuinely embrace it. I remember I wore a wig once and then I was like, no, I'm about to wear my hair. Like, I'm gonna love this. And I love that thing out. I was coloring it, doing everything. I did not care with my little pigtails, all of this big. And I'm not saying just because I don't care that you shouldn't care. But what I'm saying is, if it's just because you're in a phase where it's like, oh, my starter locks keep slipping, my hair just looks so frizzy, you just gotta give it time, honey. You gotta give it time. I promise you, them things gonna lock and it's gonna happen so fast and you're gonna miss the journey. It is a beautiful process. Like I'm telling you, once they lock, you're gonna be Gucci. So don't worry about where you're at in the process right now, because I promise you that time is going to fly. Literally fly by. You're gonna be like, dang, that was quick. And if you need styles, go back to, I think my first video on here and on my TikTok, our styles of my locks were all of like right here, I think. And I had a lot of styles in that video. I think is actually my highest performing video, which was crazy. All right. The last thing that you want to ask yourself before you go cutting or combing your locks out is, drum roll please, why did you lock in the first place? Like for real, ask yourself, what possessed me? And I say that jokingly, but what possessed me to lock my hair in the first place? And I'm so serious. And that's for a couple reasons. One, you can figure out, did I even lock for a good reason? I'm not one of those people who are gonna be like, if you cut your locks, you're terrible. So my thing is, whether you decide to comb your locks or keep them, I think you should consider these things because it'll allow you to honestly revisit and think about what is the core reason that's causing me to feel this way and reevaluate. Like I was saying, cheers to that. Cheers to your journey. I hope you love this video. If you're a returner and you haven't subscribed, again, I'm gonna tell you every time, what are you doing? Subscribe to the family. Follow me on TikTok. That's where you can see more weekly content. If you want to see daily, like my gym life and business life, go to my Instagram, follow me, hit me up. You know, I'll chat back. But I hope you guys love this video and I will catch you guys later. Cheers to you and your locks. Bye.
She got a pretty face, pretty waist. She's a dinner plate. She's the reason that my heart gon' break if she walk away.